Hey, it's time for TV Skywriter.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome to TV Skywriter. I'm Patricia A. Murray, your host. And this is the show where I introduce you very often to people who are local to the Triangle area here in North Carolina, sometimes across the country. My guest tonight just happens to be, well, he wasn't born here, but his company is based here in Durham. We have Louis Gaspard here on the show. Welcome.
Thank you.
Very happy to have you. Now, some people have already recognized you. Just that quick flash. You are the founder and artistic director of Gaspard and Dancers, right?
Yes.
Now, I was really asking you about your start earlier this afternoon, and I was shocked. I was thinking, okay, this gentleman probably was the star in all of the elementary and high school productions and danced all over the house, right? But you said your interest in dance started pretty late.
Very late, I would say. I took my first dance class in college. I was born, let me just say, I was born and raised in Haiti and moved to the United States, first New York and then Newark, New Jersey, at the age of 13. So dance for me was not part of my growing up. Although I was aware and surrounded by dance, but as a career choice, that was not a choice, actually.
That's amazing. So what happened in college?
What happened in college?
You got your degree originally in business, right?
Well, yes, I actually went to Montclair State University in New Jersey and majored in business until I met a young lady who actually enticed me to become a dance minor, and then thereafter quickly change and become a dance major. So I've actually met this young lady haphazardly because I was part of the martial arts club at Montclair, and she came over to the martial arts club to inquiring about a self-defense class. And she actually was an RA and wanted to do this special project for the residence who lives in the hall. And so the whole martial arts club came over to teach a self-defense technique. And after the workshop, she proceeded to ask me to be part of her thesis she was doing at the time, a dance thesis, and wanted me to be in a piece. And I looked at her in disbelief because I had never taken a dance class before. And there's this young lady who wanted me to be in her dance. And I thought that was crazy. So eventually I actually caved in and I did do the dance for her. And that was my first introduction to dance. I was sophomore in college. And she quickly introduced me to the chair of the dance department. Then they invited me to take a few dance classes, and I auditioned, became a dance minor. From there, I realized that this is something that I really, really enjoyed, that I'm very passionate about.
Well,
And
how did you get passionate so quickly, though? I can imagine taking a couple of classes and saying, "Oh, that's fun." But where did this passion for dance come from?
it has been in there. I didn't unknowingly. Apparently, but I've always been physically active. I played soccer growing up, martial arts, sports. I've always been physically active with regard to sports. But as far as dance, it never dawned on me that, I there was something in there because I was never introduced to dance. And growing up within the Haitian family, especially being a male, dance was not something that I thought of as a profession. And so it wasn't until I was introduced to that and being a martial artist. And I was also, it's so fun because I studied Kung Fu and Taekwondo. In a way, Kung Fu is very similar to dance. It's very, there's a quality of the technique of Taekwondo, or Kung Fu, that is very, very similar to dance. And I quickly adapted to that. And I truly, truly enjoyed it. So that's where it all came from.
So did they steal you for martial arts, or did you do both for a while?
I did both. I did both. I was not going to give up my martial arts. So, um, but then when I became a dance major, so then I started to take more dance classes. I've actually studied under Alfred Goldman. I believe he was a former Alvinelli dancer in Newark. He had his dance studio where I actually signed up for class so that I can actually bring my technique up to the point where some of the other veteran dancers, although in the dance department, who had been studied since they were probably 4 or 5 years old. I guess being a male, yeah, I had a slight advantage, even if my dance skills was not as great as the girls, but because there was such a shortage of male dancers, I had the opportunity to be in everything. So as a result, my dance technique got what's the word I'm looking for? Improve so much faster.
Okay, so
So the more
so I can imagine. So you're home for summer break, okay, and you say to your folks, "Hey, by the way, I switched from business to dance." So was that a little awkward or what?
well, I did not tell my parents until I graduated. They didn't know because I had to keep that hidden from them because I knew it. And my mom and I, we actually went out to dinner and with my brothers and cousins. And at the time, she had just watched me do one of the college performance of Sweet Charity, but she still didn't have any clue that I was a dance major until that night during dinner. And I told mom, and I asked her, "Hey, mom, did you like the performance? Did you like the show?" She said, "Yes, I really enjoyed it." I'm like, "Did you really like it?" She said, "Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed it." And I said, "Well, guess what?" And that's when I broke the news to her, and she just couldn't believe it.
Wow.
And she said, "Well, what am I going to tell my friends when they ask me, your son went to college and he studied dance?" And I told her, "Well, just tell them I'm an artist." And she just couldn't really compute the fact that I switched my major from business to dance. Until, of course, I started performing dancing with the Parabolas.
Now,
So,
Parabolas Dance Theater, they're really popular around here. We definitely know
well,
about them from the American Dance Festival.
yes, yes. And they are one of the top dance company in the world. So she realized that after all, I was not a starving artist. So she can return with it. And I was traveling the globe, performing and teaching. So
That's
she
awesome.
accepted it.
So you never thought your life was going to take this turn. So as you're living that life, did it occur to you that you have really changed your life in a huge way, and that dance
Abs-
is really opening doors for you that you didn't even know about?
Absolutely. I think that, if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't change it. And I think that um, I am thoroughly enjoyed being a dancer. I met my wife as a dancer. And,
Awesome.
and this is, I think that that's exactly what I meant to do. And it's just so that I was not exposed to it from earlier on. I discovered it later on in life as far as, being a sophomore in college, whereas most people who became professional dancers probably started at a much younger age.
Okay.
But I think that if I was not exposed to dance, if I didn't become a dancer, I'd probably become a businessman working at Wall Street somewhere. But I think that I am very lucky to have had that kind of lifestyle, to have that experience traveling the globe and, getting paid for what you love to do and enjoy doing.
That sounds great. Now, so you're with Parabolas, so you're traveling the globe, you're doing classes, you're with one of the top dance companies. What makes you think, I think I'll go off on my own now? That must take a lot of courage and a lot of chutzpah.
Indeed, indeed. Um, well, just being a dancer is just like being an athlete. And after a certain time, certain age, reality must settle in, and you have to find another way either to cope with the reality. And I actually, after my years with Palabolos, I ended up working at a bank, Chase Bank, as a banker.
Wow, okay.
So in that aspect, I've actually give my mom what she wanted, plus being a dancer, I give myself what I wanted. So we both are happy. But after being in the banking industry for 2 years, um, I think that the calling, the thing that was in there for me as a dancer, keeps crawling back. I did enjoy being being a banker for the 2 to 3 years that I actually worked for Chase Bank, and then until my wife and I moved to North Carolina, um, and I ended up actually getting a position at Duke teaching Creole, Haitian Creole at Duke University,
Oh, cool.
and from there I started teaching again, doing community outreach for the ADF community outreach program, where I would teach kids with no means to pay dance classes the opportunity to be exposed to dance, and I started to enjoy that more and more. And as a result,
Closer and closer, right?
yes, so I was never too far away from being a dancer, um, and so through doing the community outreach program for the ADF, I um, you know, became much more involved
Mm-hmm.
with the dance and started to actually um, get a few people from the community to start experimenting with creating movements and creating a piece here and there. And then 2009, I decided, well, let me just something together. Let's see what happened. And that's when I did my very first show um, independently. Um, Using all my skills from Palabolos, all my skills from other sources and other technique that I've had, and to creating um, a series of dances and to create my first performance over at Duke University.
Okay, I want to ask you a real basic question. What is modern dance? I mean, I know it's not ballet. I don't know much about dance. I'm not putting you on. I really don't.
All right.
I know that it's not ballet. And I'd also like to know, when you put together a piece, how are you matching? Are you matching movements to music?
Well, modern dance is so vast, and it's hard to really pinpoint modern dance to one particular definition. I mean, it builds upon individual expression, so which means that it is subjective. It is a subjective dance art. Mm-hmm. Well, I may have my own expression that I wanted to, ideas that I want to convey to the audience, and person B may have their own ideas, and we just bring our ideas to the forefront, and hopefully some people may like it, some people may not do. So in short, the best way I could describe modern dance, I'm going to steal this particular example from the director of the ADF, and she always described modern dance as this: it's like being in an ice cream parlor. There are so many different flavors. And you may go in, you may like certain flavors, you may like chocolate, you may like vanilla or strawberry, what have you. So in essence, there is something in there for everyone. Very seldom that you will find somebody who will walk into that ice cream parlor and not like something.
Okay.
That's modern dance.
That's good. That's really good. So when you put a piece together, are you thinking about the music? I mean, is it always in your head? Do you always know how to create these movements, or do you find the music to match what you're trying to convey through motion?
It varies. It varies. Sometimes I would find the music first. Other times I would just get into the studio and start moving around and just feel something and just start putting movements together and then record that and then just try to put it in a different piece of music. In fact, a lot of the time I would be driving and I would be listening to classical music, and by listening to this piece of classical music, then movements would start generating in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would go to the studio, try to put those movements together, because sometimes you may be thinking it, but having to translate that into your body is a different story. But as best as possible, I would translate that into my body and use a completely different piece of music. And so it's very different. Now, I must say that this particular piece, that the premiere that we're going to have for our show on Friday and Saturday, with the composer and we started talking about, he actually wanted me to give him a storyline.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking of something much more abstract.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in Boston and I'm here in North Carolina, and we tried to create this piece of music to my movement, which I had no idea what that movement would be like. And he kept asking me, well, I need something. I need a story. I'm like, dude, I don't have anything. I don't even know what this dance is all about yet.
Oh, wow.
Because it was just abstract. And so we've been going back and forth. And he goes, dude, I cannot start anything until you tell me something. I'm like, fine. Okay, here's what. I just gave him a bogus story. And I'm like, go with that. And then he came back with a beautiful piece of music. And knowing fully well that the story that I would tell him will completely be changed by the time I get the music, because it's so abstract that it's just, I can't, I didn't want to really pigeonhole myself or box myself into one specific thing. But if I said, well, it's this, and then having to go through with this particular idea, then taking away from an opportunity where the dance could be taking a different shape. It might be even better. So I didn't want to lose that aspect of it. Okay. So I had to give him a story, knowing fully well that the story would change eventually, and it did change. So the story that I gave him, actually, I tried to work with once I get the dancers into the studio, and the music I had never heard before, because oftentimes in there playing with the music, but this time he gave me the music 2 days before I head into rehearsal. Wow. The dancer had never even heard of the music, and it was a very, very hard piece of music to choreograph to. It's nice to play dancer. It was tough.
What made it difficult? I mean, was it too fast or too many notes, or?
Certain aspect of it was too slow. I wanted some variation. Different landmark cues that would be a little bit more driving at times. But eventually what happened, when they gave me the music, I was thinking, right, my mind started to race, because what I had in mind, what I had envisioned, was not what I got from him. So in a way, we work similarly, because this is something you could probably talk more about. But I would imagine that the story that I gave him, he actually had, I wrote a story for him, but in reading the story, he's feeling a different sensation as a musician, but not as a choreographer.
Oh, okay.
So what I'm thinking as a choreographer is not what he's thinking as a musician. So the music, yes, is beautifully written as a musician. If I was a musician and I would play it, it would be in heaven. But as a dancer, it was hard to tackle, because it was very, very tough music to dance to. But when we got into the studio, I had to throw the whole story out of there and start anew. And we came up with a beautiful piece of choreography to this music. And I can't wait to share that with you and my audience.
Wow. So that's going to be, let me look at my notes here, Friday and Saturday at Duke
Yes.
R.J. Reynolds Industries Theater. And the name of the show, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. Can you pronounce it for me?
Well, the name of the piece is Tota Pulchra Est. That is Latin for "You are all beautiful."
Okay, Tota Pulchra S. You are
Yes.
all beautiful.
Beautiful.
Now, the piece that you're talking about, is that what is going to be played by the Mallarmé Chamber Players? Because I know they're going to be playing live,
That
right?
is correct. That's the piece they're going to be playing live.
That's going to be wild.
Yes.
Wow. Now, is modern dance always, now I don't want to sound too stupid, but you did say classical music. Do you always need to have classical music to motivate you to come across with different moves, or
No.
can you listen to jazz, or would that influence your movement? The different,
John Coltrane. John Coltrane. I could be listening to John Coltrane and movements would be popping out. So it depends on the mood. Um, I love jazz. In fact, there's a certain movement that I get from jazz. If I'm looking for a certain quality of movement, I would listen to jazz. If I'm looking for a certain quality of movement, I would, depending on the story that I'm actually thinking about, I would listen to classical music.
okay.
And, so this music you will see here is a classical piece of music, but it also has a little bit of jazz influence to it because the composer, who is William Benfield, or otherwise known as Bill Benfield, is a jazz musician. He's a very well accomplished jazz musician, composer.
Okay, and I will have information and a link to get tickets to this show in the description of this interview. So don't worry about that. I can easily give that information.
That would be great. Thanks. Yeah.
Now I have to ask a weird question because I studied classical music as a kid, and I do know that you notate music in a certain way. But when you're composing or choreographing a piece, how do you remember what you did? How do you notate it? Is there some kind of dancing shorthand that I don't know about?
Well, there was once a time before video was invented. There's a technique called laba notations, which is very similar to that of music. It's kind of like, it looks almost kind of like music note, but that is no longer in existence. If you go to the museum in an archive somewhere, you will see that. But nowadays we use video.
Oh, okay. So when you're rehearsing, so you have to look at the video to remember what you did yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes, actually, this time around, I did not use in the video because sometimes I like to go with the gut feeling. And in fact, I also like not to use mirror. So if you go with your internal instinct, and to me, I found myself remembering it more if I just put everything in my muscle memory. Because a lot of the time, even sometimes when you have it on video, you may not be able to reproduce what you did. So you may come up with something that is so complex. Even watching it from the video, it's still hard to reproduce. So yes, a lot of people use video, and I often use video, but it's not an absolute must.
Now, when it comes to the other dancers, because I know this is not a solo piece, so does the choreographer figure out all of the movements and then teaches each dancer one by one, or do the dancers interpret with guidance from you?
It's both. But this particular piece, this time, now my company, we work in a collaborative effort. That means everybody gets to contribute something to the company. I may come up with a phrase, maybe 8, 16, or 32 counts phrase, and I say, okay, here's this phrase. I'm going to give you the green light to expand on it and add your own spice, your own essence into it, because I don't want you to look like me. Because I want everybody to bring their own individualism into the company so that we don't look alike. And I think that's the strength of having the diversity, give people the opportunity to be themselves. And as a result, the company will be stronger. So Yeah, to the extent of me coming in and choreograph every single movement from A to Z. No, it's just like the way I use the same system that I've had with Parabola. So we would come up with the movement. There may be a storyline where then each person would interpret that story according to their own um, belief, and then we come up with the movement, and then we share the movements with each other. In my case now, you
Well, how
know,
do you collaborate? Because I know there's certain movements where the dancers are actually working together. They're lifting each other or moving together in some kind of way.
mhm.
So in that case, is there like a lead dancer who says we're going to do a lift here?
No, I give them tasks to do. You know, I give them a series of tasks, and they have to figure out what those tasks are, and then from there, if I say, okay, let's come up with 4 or 5 shapes. So I would pair them together. So I'm working with 8 dancers. I would pair them together, 2 by 2. I say, okay, you two come up with 5 shapes. You two come up with 5 shapes. Or maybe vary it. I say, okay, let me put 3 people together. Find a way to make a shape with the 3 of you. So what I did this time around, from each shape, I asked them to find a way to transition to a different part of the stage or of the room while transitioning into carrying, doing all the shapes, going through the shapes. As you're moving through the rehearsal space, find a way to connect with another group. And once they start doing that, so they would figure it out. We would try it once, twice, 3 times, and until we found a pattern that we can transition from one side of the room to the other very smoothly. And then if it looks good to me, and I say, okay, let's keep that. And then we move on to a different shape, to a different area, or maybe go back to basic, where I would ask them to give me 4 gestures. And gestures could be like this. This could be just one gesture. Maybe this could be a gesture. This could be a gesture. And then I would ask each one of them to, okay, you have 5 gestures. Let's see if you could put all 5 gestures together and form a phrase. And that phrase gradually becomes longer and longer and longer until it becomes a whole dance.
Wow, that is cool. Is all of this done to the music, or is the music added later? And is it as important to the other dancers as it is to you?
Oftentimes, being the choreographer, I often like to work in silence with no music and then add the music later.
Oh.
And in this particular case with the new piece, Tota Pulcra, the music was there. So I had to work with the music. I had to find something that works with the music. And I think that's much more difficult when you have a piece of music that you become a slave to the music rather than the other way around.
But you end up with something really nice, right?
Beautiful. So you gotta come see it.
Wow, that's great. Now, the Mallarmé Chamber Players, have you played with them or performed with them before?
I've seen them perform, but this is gonna be the first time we share the stage together.
I've never seen such a thing, so I think this is going to be really exciting. So again, this is going to be Friday and Saturday.
Yes.
Duke's R.J. Reynolds Industries Theater, and I don't have the times, but I'll have all that information, you know, right after the show.
Yeah, the show starts at 8 o'clock.
Oh, okay. So you're going to do this in New York too? Is it going to be the exact same thing, or is it possible to reproduce this perfectly?
We're gonna do the same show in New York, but except that this is gonna be brand new. I've done the Tota Pulcra is gonna be the world premiere here in North Carolina in Durham. So the Durham people gets to see it first, and then we take the show to New York.
Beautiful. So Mallarmé will travel with you?
Unfortunately, I don't have the money to bring them. They would have loved to, and I would have loved to have them play live. So I'm gonna be traveling with a CD. So if I between now and September 25th, if I'm able to raise the money, I'd be more than happy to take them with me, because there's nothing better than to dance to live music. It's just a different experience.
Wow. Okay.
And they're gonna actually open a show for me here. They're gonna play a beautiful piece of music from their repertoire, and then we're gonna close the first half together with Tota.
Great. Now, what makes for a good modern dancer? Is it physicality? Is it originality, creativity?
Creativity, originality, physicality, training, a good sense of humor, being open, being a sponge, being open to criticism, constructive or whatever, or what have you. It's all of the above. It's also personality.
Oh yeah, because the personality will definitely come through in the dance. I know that. That's for sure. So what if you have a ballet background, or what if you have a background of African dance? Just to name a type of dance.
Well, if you want to be a choreographer and you have both training, so you would want to use it to advantage. Like for me, although I was not trained in the traditional Haitian dance, but I've taken some classes. I'm very familiar with it. And one of the pieces in the trilogy that I've created, which is, it's called L'Esprit, the Spirit, which is the final piece of the trilogy. I've actually used part of my Haitian traditional background into it. So it's more modern. The Yanvalu involved in there. There's the Mai, there's traditional, some of the hint of the traditional Haitian dance in there. And then it's the music is really incredible. And it's fun. So I had to teach them. That is a phrase when I auditioned the dancers, because I wanted them to have that liquid snake-like movement in their torso, which is the Yanvalu technique. And because that's very important for me, you have to have that kind of quality to do that piece.
So do you mind, you did mention trilogy, so could you tell us what we can expect to see or hope to see Friday and Saturday in terms of the storyline?
Yes. Well, last year I finished the trilogy about the earthquake that struck Haiti in 2010. The first piece of the trilogy was a piece entitled Suke, which means shake. It is about being in the earthquake itself, and people running for cover, people helping one another out, digging bodies from underneath the rubble. And also the follow-up piece, which is called Annotations, come from the word natations, to swim across. This piece is about the souls that were perished from the earthquake, being caught in the purgatory realm, having to undergo a final cleansing process before the movement to the final destination. So the piece Annotations is much more, I would say, it's modern, contemporary modern, has more of a ballet technique to it.
Okay.
Whereas L'Esprit has much more of a contemporary / traditional Haitian dance. And also with the very first piece, Suke, very contemporary, but also more partnering. So it's very different from my ballet technique to my modern technique to my little bit of a Haitian technique. It's all in there.
Wow. So what's your goals, your ultimate goals for Gaspard and dancers?
Well, since we've started in 2009, we've been growing every year. So finally this year, we will have our very first performance in New York City. And my ultimate goal is to be able to travel globally, become as successful as Palabolos or any successful modern dance company.
I'm sure you will. I am sure you will. So where else do you plan to play? I keep saying, I'm sorry, I'm used to speaking with musicians. I'm used to saying play instead of perform. But where do you plan next year to perform?
Well, hopefully by having more of an exposure in New York City, and
how about Haiti?
That would be that's a wish would come true if I'm able to take the company to Haiti. That would be my ultimate goal right now. And especially to be able to perform that trilogy in Haiti would be phenomenal.
I mean, I think the response you would get would
Yeah.
be unlike any response you would get here in the U.S. because they actually were the ones who went through it.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I could imagine it would be very emotional.
I would, if I could find the funding to go to Haiti and take the company with me and do a performance, that would be a dream come true. Be a dream come true.
Well, I know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I just know it. Well, thank you so much, Louis Gaspard, for being on the show. And keep me posted as far as, your other shows, your performances, so that I could help to promote you. That's what I want to do.
Thank
and,
you.
Thanks again for being on the show.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Let me say one last thing.
Sure.
Okay, my next performance after New York to perform in Wilmington, North Carolina. So,
Yeah, okay.
so I'll keep you updated on that one.
Definitely do that. And what you should probably do is to write down some media outlets. A lot of times people travel around, but they don't talk to local media. Like I was telling you about New York, if you could contact the people at Schomburg, I think that would be really hip. If you could give like a talk or something at Schomburg. I know it's kind of last minute, but it doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Appreciate the time.
Absolutely. And if you'd like to be a guest on TV Skywriter, just write to me at durhamskywriter@gmail.com. The Durham Skywriter is Durham, North Carolina's online, I call it Durham's online community paper. It's all positive, something very unique. Check it out at durhamskywriter.com. I also do little videos and put them on my YouTube channel, which is under my real name, Patricia A. Murray. So be sure to check that out. Follow me on Facebook, Patricia A. Murray. I add DNC at the end for Durham, North Carolina. And with that, see you later. Ciao for now. Bye-bye.